today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be shooting my top 10 tips for your first wild camp. As I've just struggled up my first hill, this brings me on to tip number 1, which is don't pack your bag too heavy, because if you're hiking up large hills or anything, you're carrying your tent, your water. If you're doing it solo, you're carrying everything, and it's going to tire you out and make your first wild camp pretty rubbish. Okay, so the second and possibly most important tip for wild camping is location. Where can you do it in the UK? Well, in Scotland, generally, it's totally legal, totally safe. You can basically rock up and do it anywhere. Obviously, not in somebody's back garden, let's be sensible here. In England, it's a different story. It is illegal and there aren't many places you can really go. I'd say that for a first wild camp, I'd be heading up to the Peak District, probably to Kinder Scout, but you do need to be wary that you cannot have campfires up in the Peak District, and I can do a video on that later, but there are plenty of other wild camp YouTubers who will explain that to you in much further detail and probably are better qualified at explaining it than I am. Other places you can go in Wales, you can go in the Brecon Beacons, you can go in Snowdonia, as long as you go as high up as possible, well, not as possible, but as long as you go high up, not on farmland, generally you'll be fine, you won't get moved on. So you can wild camp in Dartmoor. As for camping on the south coast, like I have a couple of times and I'm doing right now, generally I'd say you need to be well away from the public, well away from anybody's house or where anybody might be staying. So wild camp tip number 3 is to bring plenty of water. We're getting into summer now, so it's getting pretty warm, the nights are pretty warm, and you need to calculate roughly how much water you need to bring. Now I've come on a one-night wild camp starting quite late in the afternoon on Saturday. I'm going to finish quite early tomorrow morning as well. So what I've done is I've brought 1.5 litres there, which is all drinking water, and then I've got about 500 ml, which is just cooking water alone. Okay, my 4th tip is bring tasty snacks. So this is snacks other than what you plan to have for dinner, things to keep you energized along the way, and breakfast, obviously, very important. So what I've got on this wild camp, I've got some of these Gray's tasty crunchy things. I've got a Huel, this is what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow. I've actually got a coffee bag so I can have a hot coffee either tomorrow morning if I'm cold, or or tonight. That's very tasty. Just got some sweets to keep me going, and then got some of these Trek bars which are super tasty. Just little things like that can be really big pick-me-ups when you're feeling really tired and maybe a bit grouchy, a bit hungry. Tip number 5, remember to have fun. You're out and about, you're in the mountains, maybe you're on the coastline, maybe you're by yourself with a few friends. Whatever the situation that you're in on your first wild camp, it can feel a bit daunting, you can feel a bit anxious about being moved on in the night, but just remember to enjoy the space that you're in and respect the environment. Obviously don't leave any litter or anything like that, we'll come on to that later, but yeah, just have fun in nature. Okay, quick tip number 6. If you're worried about getting moved on, then there's one really simple solution. Just set up late and leave early. So that means setting up just as it's getting dark and then leaving just before sunrise, or just before like any normal time that a human might be awake and on the hillside or on the coastal path. Obviously I haven't set up totally when it's dark, and there's a reason for this. I basically want to show you my setup while it's still light so I can film it. So the basic setup for me, I think, obviously, you need a tent. You don't need to splash out and buy something like I have, which set me back about £300. There are better, more budget tents that you can buy. I'll try and have a research and put some links in the description, but there are loads of other YouTubers online like Paul Mesner who goes through kit and budget kit and more expensive kit, and loads of other channels. So yeah, this is my basic setup. So I have a Rab sleeping bag, which I use because I do winter camping, because it goes down to -6, which you might not necessarily need if you're just going for a wild camp in summer. Then I have this Trekology pillow. Having a pillow, I didn't used to bring one, I used to just use clothes. Big mistake. Pillow massively improved my night's sleep. And then I've got a roll mat here. This is actually thermo insulated, and basically I've gone for one that's blow up because it's just a load more comfy. Basically the thickest blow up that you can purchase in your budget is going to be what's best. But obviously if you don't do that and you just want to be on a budget, then just a basic roll mat will do. But I can't guarantee you'll get a good night's sleep. Tip number 8 is simple. It's just bring more layers. If you're on top of a mountain or on top of the hills in the Peak District on your first camp, even if it's been warm in the day, say 20-25 degrees, at night it could drop down to as little as 8 degrees. And if there's wind and you're going outside of the tent, then there's going to be a wind chill factor that you need to take into consideration. Generally what I do is I take fleeces and a waterproof or a windproof jacket. And then if I've been wearing shorts in the day like I am now, I usually bring a pair of like long johns to wear inside of my sleeping bag, or I'll just bring trousers to wear, jogging bottoms, basically whatever's lightest, taking into consideration that I'm going to have to carry this up the mountain as well. Right, tip number 9 is leave no trace, which basically means, as it says, leave no trace except for maybe the footprint of where you were. Leave no rubbish, take all of that with you. And then also just one more thing, I'd say no fires. I already spoke about this earlier in the video, but generally rule of thumb is don't have any fires. Obviously gas burners are absolutely fine, just obviously be wary about the local area. Some places have different rules, but it's best to do some research before you think about setting a fire. So the last and final tip, a nice and simple one, is you need to know what to do if you get into trouble. So I'd say do some research and find out the local mountain rescue team, or what local number you need to call if you get into trouble on the top of the Peak District, let's say, or in Snowdonia, or wherever you choose for your first wild camp. This can be really important, maybe just for peace of mind, if anything else. If you're solo camping, what I suggest is that you message your parents or your partner or a friend that you trust who would be able to come and help you out, or would be able to call the right people. Tell them where you're camping overnight exactly. I like to use what 3 words because I find that's the most accurate. But I also sometimes use Ordnance Survey and take a screenshot and send my exact location of where I'm going to camp and make sure that I camp there and not somewhere else. And this can just be super useful if you did get into trouble for people finding you. There you have it. There are my top 10 tips for your first successful wild camp. Good luck to you all, and if you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments below. And of course, if you could like this video, comment and subscribe, that'd be brilliant. That would really help me out. But yeah, really enjoy your first wild camp. Let me know how it goes. And if you want to follow my wild camps and my photography, if you go to my Instagram, which is JamieLoftus1, that'd really help too. Thanks, bye.